You may recognize the term Eyebot. I wouldn't be surprised if you did. But if not, you'll recognize their strangely shaped body, and will most likely remember some floating metal orb out in the waste when you see one. The Eyebot is a robot which was created before the war, the date lost to time, by Robco Industries. Robco, back before the bombs, were a blossoming and widespread company, first started by the mastermind Robert House. If you're wondering, yes, this is the same mysterious Mr. House from the strip. Lord knows if he's still alive. Robco were responsible for the creation of many different robots and pieces of technology the Brotherhood of Steel would die for. The Protectron, the Pip-Boy, and obviously, the Eyebot as well. The Eyebot is a rather small, hovering robot designed to be space efficient and to fit a variety of consumer needs, whether that be constant, instant access to the radio, television on the go to keep the kids from nagging you about games on your Pip-Boy, and many more. There was even a pre-war TV show based on an Eyebot named Ralphie. The show was about an Eyebot running from a military installation and a man named General Winters who was chasing after Ralphie, eventually leading to an incredible odyssey. If you or another Wastelander is looking for a closer look at an Eyebot, head to the Repcon HQ, out in Nevada. Inside the Repcon HQ, there are many things of interest, things I may cover in later holotapes, but among these interesting things is a room filled with prototype versions of robots which can be found in the waste to this day. Experimental Protectrons, Mr. Handy prototypes, SentryBot prototypes, as well as our main focal point, the Ibot Prototype. The description of this prototype Ibot reads, Robco's always had an eye for robotics, and this little fellow is no different. This robotic marvel can not only recognize your face and voice with advanced facial and auditory recognition technology, it can also broadcast your favorite audio and video as well. Think of it, all the sights and sounds of your radio and TV in your living room at home, blasted directly at you on the street, subway, bathroom, or wherever you may be. Never fear, you'll never miss a news bulletin or presidential address again, no matter where you are. Robco's Eyebot.
Attention citizens, nuclear strike imminent. Please exit the area at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your cooperation.
Sounds absolutely marvelous, doesn't it? Entertainment from any radio station, GNR, New Vegas Radio, Diamond City Radio on the go. It's no wonder that back in the day these things sold out like candy. But the question is, how did they pull it off? Well, the Eyebot uses a complex and strengthened antenna array stationed at the back of the robot to pick up radio waves from long distances. This antenna array was useful due to its strength, not just for entertainment pleasures but for important news bulletins and presidential messages. I'd bet the Eyebot would be extremely useful for updates surrounding the Battle of Anchorage, rising tensions between America and China, and eventually, the world's end. Eyebots were also a surprisingly good way of protecting and securing certain areas. Someone broke into your house and your Mr. Handy was powered down for the night, count on your Eyebot to beat them up some. Equipped with an AEP-7 laser pistol built into the robot, the Eyebot will do some light damage to serious and grievous bodily harm. It's no SentryBot, but the Eyebot sure has a bite. Another interesting point to make is that this is the very sole reason some Eyebots are still hostile in certain areas to this day. After the bombs dropped, and people outside of the vaults tried to make their way through the irradiated cesspool left in place with the world that they used to know, Eyebots became a very useful tool for independently set up radio stations in the future. Diamond City is a prominent example of this, sending Eyebots across the wasteland playing their radio. Eyebots also provided good company for travelling caravans, acting as a floating radio with defensive mechanisms to attack any raiders trying to steal or kill the caravan members. Eyebots were also used in the defense of some settlements who could afford the luxury, alongside lone wanderers who liked their music. Sometimes, Eyebots wouldn't be so friendly. They would regard you as trespassers and enemies if they were guarding an old military checkpoint or factory. Eyebot security technology from before the war and some Eyebots used for security was never disabled or overwritten. Some smart-ass wastelanders might be able to fix that problem and get a little Eyebot friend to travel a wasteland with them. But in most cases, it's too dangerous and complicated to even try. Keep that in mind when you're next scavenging a factory and see an Eyebot shooting lasers at you. It's because it was programmed to defend that place with this life. Which leads me to the final job the Eyebots had, and more specifically in the capital wasteland. Eyebots, and other robots of a wide variety, were stockpiled, disabled and preserved for later military uses in the government, in addition with some facilities with capable machines and abilities to create these robots if they were still active, meaning the government still had access to these facilities and stockpiles after the bombs dropped. The Enclave had access to these facilities and stockpiles. The Enclave are a faction that I have studied extensively, not only in these holotapes I leave for you now, but from first-hand experience. My time in the Enclave showed me for the monsters they were, and the fact that people were still hearing the false information spread by the bastard president over in the east, and believing the lies they were fed disgusts me. The Enclave had access to nearly any military weapon or gadget at their disposal, from the plasma pistol to full-blown orbital strikes. They also had access to Eyebots, which over time were improved upon and changed as the Enclave grew stronger and saw mass use in the capital wasteland. Sometime before the Enclave's downfall at California, they had many aspirations. The universe beyond our wastes, space, using FEV and getting better power armor and weapons, but one of these aspirations was minor compared to the rest, was improving the Eyebot to assist in manipulating innocent people into thinking that the Enclave somehow weren't the bad guys. The Enclave began work on a new and improved variant of the Eyebot at Adams Air Force Base in Washington, D.C., naming these variants of the Eyebot the Duraframe project. The Duraframe project was meant to enhance combat capabilities of the Eyebots. Instead of having flimsy laser pistols to do little damage, the scientists added a Tesla cannon or improved laser cannon instead. The antennas were improved, as well as an improved dish added to the front of the model for better tracking. These Eyebots were nearly finished production, and then suddenly were put to a halt by the infamous Colonel Autumn and Enclave higher-ups. Reason being, a war had begun. The Brotherhood of Steel were back. Neither faction, Elder Lyons or Colonel Autumn, were happy to hear of each other's presence. Colonel Autumn directed all scientific project heads to begin extensive work on mass production of the Hellfire and advanced suits of power armor to help fend off the well-equipped Brotherhood of Steel, and take the rumored Project Purity from them. Professor Whitley, one of the development heads on the ED project, as it was dubbed, the Eyebot Duraframe project, was nearly reluctant to let go of his project, especially one of his subjects. I never heard of Whitley. I assume he was probably on the board with Autumn at the oil rig when, well, that went kapoof. And that's how he got over to the east. According to a man who heard his voice recordings, he grew overly attached to one of his robotic subjects and tried to send the bot our way, to stop it getting melted down for parts for the Hellfire. He sent it to the Chicago base, and then to us, but it never reached us apparently. If I'm to trust the courier, that is. Eyebot Duraframe Subject E, also known as Eddie for short, was one of the first Eyebot Duraframe subjects ever produced. I was not in this department of the Enclave, but I am to assume that the models before and after Eddie were in alphabetical order. Ed A, Ed B, etc. Eddie was sent from Adams Air Force Base to the Chicago outpost for repairs, and finally make his way to Navarro. Whitley, however, didn't know that the Brotherhood of Steel and NCR took that place decades ago. It was meant to go to us before we transferred to Camp Iridanus up in the mountains. On its way through Nevada, Eddie was blasted by a sniper, severely damaging it until it fell into the hands of a mysterious courier who delivered it to a one Johnson Nash of Prim. Eddie was repaired and taken as a companion by a friend of mine before we met. He explained to me on one of our travels. Eddie became more fond of the TV show I talked about before, Ralphie, because of the similarities between how Eddie was running from the Enclave wanting to use him for the next power armor project, and Ralphie running from General Winders. Eddie was still in possession of these Enclave logs when my old pal found him, but kept them under lock and key until communicating with the courier. That's when certain words that the courier said would begin to trigger Eddie's memory banks, and then he would begin playing these logs of Whitley talking. That's when the Mojave Brotherhood of Steel and followers of the Apocalypse showed interest in Eddie. Enclave Tech. I do not know who he handed the robot to, but either way he seemed to be repaired. They fixed him, repaired him, upgraded Eddie for the courier. And that's a basic rundown of Eddie for you. I doubt we will ever find whatever remains of the Enclave, but that information that he has is useful, and may be useful to other factions in the Wasteland. Here's where things get interesting, however. I'd be surprised if any of you have even been to the Divide. It's a dangerous, disturbing, hellish place. Dead, skinless soldiers walk the streets, and the loom of destruction of a bygone era smothers the place. There are a lot of military operations that happened before the war in the Divide. Missile silos, soldier encampments, the lot. One of these places is called Hopeville, an ironic name in the sense of the place being even more of a desolate hellscape than even the glowing sea. Hopeville was the grounds for a missile launch silo, army barracks, and an Eyebot dispersal facility. It seems, according to an old friend of mine, Ulysses, who was somebody that he met, told him that the facility had the capabilities to create new Eyebots upon destruction, something that could be put to good use, and was. Upon entry of the Hopeville missile silo, Eyebots will be seen repairing the missiles and the base, but these Eyebots look different, almost more advanced. They wear a yellow rim on their faceplate, but the rest of their body is the standard Eyebot silver. They were also equipped with an arc welder, a tool for maintenance work, and also a somewhat decent defensive weapon. This is where the chems kick in, and things get a little bit wavy. As well, the courier claimed that one of these robots was Eddie. I know what you're thinking, that's crazy, that seriously can't be real, how does that work? Well, my friends, I can explain. The Ed-E in the Mojave was upgraded and made far superior by the Enclave, and had a wider signal strength and range. Whitley programmed Ed-E to be able to share the data from his experiments with other models of Eyebots so not all was lost. Everything right down to the schematics for the Duraframe. This range allowed Ed-E from the Mojave to share his data and storage with the Hopeville missile silo of the Divide, then signaling the stations to create a new print of Eyebot with Eddie's data inside, a clone of the Mojave version, encased in a maintenance casing of Hopeville's very own. Other Eyebots found at the Divide include a medical version of this Eyebot, which was used in medical bays to assist nurses, doctors, surgeons, and medical staff in their operations, as well as the Repair Eyebot, which was used for minor repairs and engineer work. According to the courier, whilst tussling with a man he called Ulysses, he summoned hordes of these Eyebots to attack the courier, which further confirms the theory that the silos in the Divide indeed can create new Eyebots in a matter of minutes. Luckily, everyone in the Mojave seems beyond somewhat scared of the Divide, meaning that the Brotherhood of Steel will hopefully never come to look for the silos. I don't know what happened to the Ed-E model or the original Duraframe model. The courier never told me before we parted ways. I can only assume that he lurks somewhere around the Mojave, and that Enclave data is stored in his memory banks. Well, that's what Eyebots are. The floating radios turned propaganda foot soldiers and valuable data on the run. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, found it enjoyable, fun, informative, or entertaining. If you did any of those, then please consider pressing the like button and subscribing to join the Wanderer Legion if you are not already. I have a Discord server where I tend to talk to people who watch my content fairly regularly, so be sure to join that in my banner above. I also do regular streams on Twitch, so be sure to drop me a follow at twitch.tv/thewanderer2287. We're almost at 100 followers over there, so be sure to go and hit the follow button.